Hello, I'm Wally Haas. I'm Executive Director of Transform Rockford and your host for Rockford on the Record. Before you do anything else, please like our content, subscribe to our channel, and moving forward. So the first 2+ years of this program was the product of the city of Rockford. Transform Rockford it took responsibility for it earlier this year. Now, when we did it before, Mayor McNamara was a frequent guest of our program, and this is his first appearance on our new digs here. So we welcome you here.
Excited to be here. Take a little offense that this is my first appearance, but I'm excited to be here.
You're always welcome. You can just barge in anytime. And with the mayor today is Carrie Haggerty, the Director of Finance.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And Carrie knows all about the numbers and where the money goes and where it's hidden, right?
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about the city's budget surplus plan. Now, a couple things. Now, I've been around this community for almost 5 decades now, and I can't remember too often that we've had a budget surplus within the city, but now you've had one at least 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Right.
How the heck did that happen?
Well, it was the product of a number of things coming together that were unanticipated. So we collect revenue from the state. The primary driver was a revenue source we call PPRT, or personal property replacement tax. Effectively, it's sort of like a corporate income tax. It's a notoriously volatile revenue source for us. We budgeted on average about $7 to $9 million a year for most of my time here, which is not 5 decades, but 2. So I've got some history. And we collected record high numbers of PPRT in 2022 and 2023. So that is a product, and that's a statewide revenue source. So it's collected with any corporations reporting income tax throughout the state, and that comes back to the city based on a complicated formula that's outlined in the state statute. So that revenue source jumped from $7 to $9 million to over $20 million. We also had much higher than anticipated income tax collections, and a lot of this was based out of the recovery out of COVID. So we were sort of anticipating a recession that didn't materialize. We really, the economy bounced right back out of COVID. Hiring was up, wages were up, consumer spending was up. So obviously the corporations in the state had a great year, which means we had 2 really great years.
Now, it's the revenue is more of a product of good fortune.
Correct.
But what has impressed me is that you've also cut expenses pretty well. You're under budget on expenses.
Yes.
How did that work?
So I think that one was a little bit out of our hands. I think the biggest driver for expenses being under budget was understaffing in the police department. And that's really just, we cannot hire officers fast enough, honestly. So we've had a significant number of retirements, disproportionately high retirements over the last several years. And, efforts to recruit have not yielded officers to replace them as quick as we're losing them. So while we budget for full staffing, we were not able to get there. So that was salary that didn't go out the door effectively.
Okay.
We used to do like one hiring, and this is national and throughout the entire state. We used to do one hiring session for police and or fire every couple of years. And I was just talking to a firefighter yesterday, and we would get 1,100 applicants. And you would, work through that list, and there'd still be a couple hundred that were really good and move through the entire process. Ever since around 2020, those who want to get in the field of either fire prevention and safety or the police departments, those numbers have really dwindled. So we're really trying to get creative. So we have done now 3 hiring sessions for police each year. We've done retention bonuses, incentives to hire individuals. We're looking at partnerships now with Rockford University and the city of Rockford to see if we can grow our own officers and trying to be as creative as we can. And that issue is throughout the state.
Okay. So back to the budget surplus. The City Council recently passed the surplus spending plan.
Yes.
Give me some of the highlights of where that money's going to go.
Sure.
So I'm pretty excited about it. I will touch on several, but would really like Carrie to touch on many of them. We're really fortunate at the City of Rockford to have Carrie. She does an amazing job of managing our finances. So a couple of things I think residents are going to be most excited about is a huge investment that we've made in infrastructure. We've nearly doubled the amount of money that we're going to be providing to aldermen for their ward plans. And their ward plans for residents, that includes their sidewalks, that includes their neighborhood streets, their alleys, things of that nature. And so we've nearly doubled that amount. And then and all of this work, while you're going to see being completed in the summer of 2025. So double the neighborhood work. Then you will see portions of Alpine, which from Spring Creek up to Highcrest will be resurfaced. Then you will see a portion of Mulford from Fincham to Guilford, and then from Gale to Churchview being resurfaced. You will see Spring Creek from Welsh to Mulford being resurfaced. You will see West Riverside from Rockton to Latham being resurfaced as well. So that's huge infrastructure dollars that we're investing, millions of dollars there. A couple of other things that I think are really important to highlight is we are working on a large economic development project off South Main and Bypass 20. And so we allocated about $2.5 million for public improvements to help attract this major economic development project there, and that's moving along very well right now. We also, as you've seen, Wally, and we've talked about in the past, PCI is growing and building hundreds of thousands of square feet out on Linden. And right now they're in the process of hiring 400 individuals, and they're going to be ramping that up even further. But when you hire that many people, you need bus routes there. You also, when you have the bus stop out there, you want the residents to have the ability to walk on a sidewalk to their place of employment. And then we also have a number of residents who live in and around that neighborhood, so we're building pedestrian improvements out there. And so that's good. I would say the last 2 or 3 quick things is we're investing $1 million into the facade of the Coronado Theater. We're investing money into the stabilization of the Chick Hotel, which is right across the street from BMO, so that we can get that redeveloped. And the last thing I would mention is we're investing in the Discovery Center, about $100,000 into the Discovery Center. I would love, Carrie, though, to touch on, we're putting money towards paying down those TIFs.
Yep.
If you could touch on that.
Sure. So we have had for a number of years, some of our TIF funds are in a negative position. These were largely housing related TIFs. We sold bonds to pay for infrastructure to support a development, a residential development. And then 2008 happened and the housing market sort of fell out from underneath us. And those properties never ended up getting fully developed, or the development happened much, much later than anticipated. So we had debt service payments to make and no increment to pay the debt service. We have since significantly modified the way that we handle TIF projects, largely pay as you go. So we are not getting out in front of a project and incurring debt before the project is complete, for the most part, in our TIF programs. But we do have these negative TIFs that we need to address before they close. By law, they have to close at zero. So we have, in previous budget cycles, we've already addressed 3 of those TIFs. In this surplus plan, we'll address 2 more. That leaves just 1 or 2 left that we'll have to take care of in the next 4 or 5 years before they expire. Additionally, in the surplus plan, so we have what we call our risk management fund. We used to pay legal claims against the city. One of the not very exciting things, but fiscally responsible things that we're doing is sort of pre-funding that fund. We know we'll have claims to pay out over the next several years. We did have to sell bonds to settle a claim in 2023. And to avoid that situation from happening again, we're putting cash into the risk management fund to pay claims as they come in.
Now, another one of the areas that you're addressing is pension debt.
Yeah. So, and just going real quick back to the TIFs, just so folks realize this. So, these TIFs were created anywhere from 22 to 30 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
And so when they come up, that if they're still negative, if we didn't use surplus, we got to use our general fund dollars to pay them off. And I just want residents to know that that's why this is an important and a good financial move is when you have that surplus, pay down that debt that will be coming forward in the coming years. You are correct. We did recently invest in an additional $2 million, $1 million into our police and $1 million into our fire pension funds. That's above and beyond what our annual payment is. And I say this fairly often, but when I first became an alderman in 2013, we were spending about $9 to $9.6 million on pensions. I believe last year, did we allocate $30.9 million towards pensions? And so our pensions payment has ballooned, as has everyone else's across the state. And so we're just adding more money into it so that we can pay down that liability.
All right, which will put the city in better position going
In the
forward.
future.
Yeah,
So-
and that was paid out of casino revenue funds, not the surplus, just so that's clear.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So,
Yes.
yeah. So we've actually got two buckets of money here. You know, you got the casino revenue, and then you've got the budget surplus.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
and there's good spending plans on each of those.
Yes. Yep. So I think we really tried to achieve good balance in not only stabilizing our general fund, where we pay for most of the services that affect residents on a day-to-day basis. We want to make sure that that fund is in a healthy position going forward, that we can eliminate things like negative TIFs, having to pay those off, significant legal claims, investing in that, paying down our pension debt effectively. It's sort of like making an extra principal payment on your mortgage, right? It's going straight to the debt. And that money will earn interest over time to help reduce the debt even further, right? So investing in pensions today and it being a contribution from the gaming tax, it's a recurring annual contribution. So we'll be putting an additional $1 million into each pension fund for the time being moving forward to help address longer term commitments from the general fund as well. So trying to balance that stabilization of the general fund with addressing infrastructure needs that we know we need to address today, as well as investing in the future through a number of economic development efforts.
You know, a lot of things that you've touched on, you know, the infrastructure improvements, those are things that really excite residents. And there's another thing that excites residents, and that's not having an increase in their property taxes.
Absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, I'll just keep saying that we're fortunate to have Carrie Haggerty. So this year will be our 12th year as a city of Rockford to not increase the property tax levy. And the property tax levy, very simply put, is the amount of money that we say we need from residents to pay our budget. And so we have not asked for more money. Actually, in the last 8 years, we've asked 2 times for a little bit less. Right now it's just over $48 million that we asked from residents, and I think back in 2017 it was just under 49. So we have not reduced it incredibly. I don't want people to think that, but we have definitely kept it flat, while many taxing bodies have increased their levy.
Right.
Okay. And so but you know, home values have increased.
Yep.
And so that's why you've been able to maintain that level of funding. Is that correct?
No, so
No,
so
okay.
that the home values have increased. So that means that if we have a flat levy and your values increase, your rate goes down.
Okay.
So if a homeowner's property didn't change in value from one year to the next, our overall rate has declined because values have gone up. So if an individual's property had not changed in value, their portion of the tax bill would actually decrease from one year to the next because the rate has shrunk. But really, we have had a stagnant revenue source from property taxes for the last 12 years. So we've had to get really creative about funding things like pension increases and just the normal increases in the cost of doing business as the city to be able to adopt balanced budgets without those 2 to 3% increases annually that we would otherwise have taken in property taxes.
How does inflation affect your budget?
Yeah, pretty significantly, right? So over 75% of our budget, our general fund budget is personnel, right? Police officers, firefighters, street maintenance workers, the people that the public sees out every day providing services to the public. So as we have inflation-based increases in costs globally, right, throughout the state or through the community, those employees need additional pay to cover those additional living expenses, right? So increasing pay, increased costs and benefits, things like that, drive our budget significantly. A big piece of that is the pension contribution, as Mayor mentioned, which has increased significantly. We're looking at a 10 to 15% annual increase in the pension contribution over the last decade or so, which we don't expect to let up, right? I mean, the additional contribution will certainly help that sort of slow the growth a little bit, but it will still grow significantly year to year. But those police officers and firefighters and street maintenance workers drive vehicles, and fuel costs affect us. We buy things like road salt, another one of the largest expenses that the city has in the general fund. That inflation drives those costs. So inflation touches a lot of what we do in the general fund. Certainly affects our water utility as well, fairly significantly, and affects those water rates that we charge to residents.
So you've had budget surpluses 2 years in a row. What's the picture looking like going forward?
So I would say, we kind of have a status quo budget moving into 2025. And I don't want to say we have it yet because it's, as time of this being filmed, it's not finally approved. But we've had great discussions with our council members and numerous discussions with the community. We, again, are not increasing the property tax. It's very much a status quo where we're investing heavily into police, fire, and public works. When you look at those three, you're talking about 85 to 87% of our budget is police, fire, and public works. And we've increased all three of those budgets over the last several years. So it's very much that. And then when you look at other revenue sources, it's investments in neighborhoods that are high risk for economic development. It's investments in some of our arts and culture. We mentioned the pensions. We are also investing in things like Rockford Promise. So things that we hope will have great returns on investment.
And a lot of those programs, I think, will. So a lot of good things. So what if you had a wish list as far as, budget, money coming into the city, what would be on it? What kind of programs would you like to be able to fund that you can't fund because the money's not there?
So, I think there's a lot of things that we would like to do. I think first and foremost, we've done good keeping the levy flat. I think we all wish, and I think all residents wish, their property taxes were lower. We are just 22% or less of the tax bills, but we always want to provide that relief. I would say there's lots of things when it comes to the city of Rockford. We have a lot of facilities that need a lot of love, and that love costs money. We're doing a great job, I think, right now. We've have 3 new police stations. We have a new evidence facility, but our fire stations really need a lot of attention. We're now putting that money into those fire stations, which is critical. There's actually some discussion right now in the community, which is, to me, a little bit laughable because we're having another private bathroom built. And people are like, why are we spending this much money on a private bathroom? I'm like, because we actually now have women who are firefighters, and they shouldn't be going in the same bathroom with 3 other men as they have for the last 40 years. We actually have our first ever woman chief. So we need investments in the facilities that we own. We need investments in for public works and fire. There's a lot. Any ones that you really are?
Yeah, I think that we in my time here, we've had budget deficits, right? These surpluses are really foreign territory for us because we've been scraping by, right, to keep the lights on. So I think that for our team to kind of step outside of the survival mentality and think, wow, what could we do if we had a little bit extra? It's been an interesting adventure for us, really. And because this has been one-time revenue, we've looked at one-time expenses, right? But I think that we would love to invest more in our neighborhoods, in stabilizing our neighborhoods, in assisting homeowners who might need a little bit of help to stay in their homes, to keep their properties up. I think we would love to invest more in economic development, small business development. I think we've done a ton, but there's always more that we could do to help our local small businesses or people who are interested in starting local businesses to begin that journey. So besides that, I'm sure, our police and fire departments would love to have a little bit extra to add some of the more, sort of less keep afloat work they're doing right now, and more sort of proactive, preventative efforts that they just don't have the time to do right now. So I think additional staff in those departments to go towards those more proactive and less, responsive efforts would be welcome.
Yeah, we were kind of joking the other day. I was an alderman from 2013 through 2017, and we had a lot of Saturday morning sessions because you couldn't talk about all of the deficits that we had just on Monday nights.
Right.
And so we were joking like, man, we got rid of the Saturdays. But it made me start thinking, I mean, when I took office in 2017, you looked out 5 years, we faced a $156 million deficit. And I think one thing that I want residents to continue to think about is we did a couple of things, and Carrie helped lead them. One, we asked all of our employees, some for the first time ever, what do you think we could cut?
Yeah.
And they came up with great ideas. Then we went to the business community and said, here's our budget, open book, take a look at it. And they came up with some great ideas, either collaborations, cost-saving measures. And then we were fortunate and won a grant and had municipal finance experts work alongside us for several months looking at different ways that we could save money. And we put all those together, and we took the vast majority of those recommendations. So really, the community helped us, our employees helped us, and we took advice from outside experts to really get us on a path that we could start having these surpluses.
Now, if memory serves, when I wrote about this back when I was working at the newspaper, city staff is pretty lean.
Yeah.
And I think, comparatively for a city the size of Rockford, your overhead for employees is actually pretty reasonable.
We have we have 1/3 less staff than all of our comparable communities. And I would say one additional thing, that I think our residents would want, and I know our teams want, you look at like code enforcement and things of that nature. And we don't ever go out there just to be a burden or, punish someone. We want them to come into compliance. But I think getting more folks out there so that we can increase the standards of living in all of the neighborhoods would be another area that we would love to see more of.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts? Is there a money tree that we can shake down and get some of these other things going?
Unfortunately, no money tree. But I think we've had great opportunities between federal funding related to COVID, these two years of budget surpluses, and now the ongoing revenue that we will receive with the casino opening, to really make an impact on our operations, our general fund, the community, to make some investments that we otherwise would not have had the opportunity to make. So it's been really an interesting several years since COVID started. Financially, for sure, an unprecedented few years that have positioned us in a much better place for what is to come, which is still a lot of unknowns, right? Just a new presidential election. Who knows what's happening, with tax policy and the economy in general, right? Things like that. So, my crystal ball doesn't go out very far. So we will likely be facing deficits again, But I think we're in a position to weather those from a much stronger base than we had previously. So,
yeah, I concur with Carrie. I think one thing that is still yet to be determined. We're eager to work with the new administration and all of our federal and state partners. But I mean, you have to also go into it with open eyes. And when you look at some of the policies that are out there, just for our own local municipality, I'm not talking about a national policy, but getting rid of Head Start, reducing rental assistance, reducing energy assistance programs. There's a lot of Rockfordians today that are still hurting, that still need that assistance. You look at, just Head Start, 0 to 5, it's 716 families that need that assistance. And so we're going to be advocating and doing all that we can to make sure that those who are hardest hit in Rockford still have that opportunity to meet their potential.
There are plenty of challenges ahead.
Yes.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Carrie Haggerty. Thank you for watching this episode of Rockford on the Record. Now, you don't have to watch this episode. You can just put in your earbuds and listen to it while you do the dishes, do the laundry, or any other household chores. The content, the words that were said here today are very informative, and I hope you enjoyed the program. And like I said in the beginning, like our content, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you on the next episode. I'm Wally Haas. Thank you.